This is a Club 11 production.
Club 11!
Picture this. The engine of a wood-paneled 1998 Thomas school bus begrudgingly rumbles on. Gravel crackles underneath the weight of a recently replaced set of tires. The air brakes exhale. And we do the same. It was just after 11 p.m., and we sat below the soft blanket of Vermont's summertime night sky. I don't think any of us would have dreamt of being here just a few months earlier when we left Orlando. The best part about it, though, was that we all knew we were only halfway there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tyler, and I help run Club 11. I'd like to be the first to welcome you to the Soccer Odyssey Podcast, a recap of our journey driving 12,000 miles across the country to document every nook and cranny of the somewhat oddly shaped American soccer footprint. Doing the entirety in a 27-foot, always, sometimes reliable school bus from Facebook Marketplace that we turned into a moving museum dedicated to American soccer history. Things went by so incredibly fast last year that we felt like we needed a chance to debrief. And on the off chance that someone might be interested enough to want to hear about where the bus came from, what it was like working with folks from Louisville City to Bayern Munich to Gorilla FC, or even to hear what our wise mid-20-year-old brains took away from the experience, we recorded the whole thing. So, sit back, relax, and buckle up as we sat down and yapped for almost 12 hours straight about, most importantly, the good soccer is doing in our country.
I feel like that's where kind of Club 11 started, that it was like that first kind of like digging, and you find a little gem, and you're like, oh, I have to dig a little further, and then you find other things. So it was like DC United was kind of like the gateway into things, and then now it's kind of ended with this 1998 Thomas school bus that we've taken to, like, I don't know, 20 different cities, traveled 12,000 miles all across the country, teams in USL, UPSL, NPSL, basically the entire pyramid. And it's just kind of been, I think, that pursuit for all of us, that it's like, I feel like we all kind of have similar stories of like how we found the game here in the US, and that it's very similar, where it's like you dig and then you find something and then you keep going, and I feel like that's kind of like how we all found each other, and what's kind of like kept all of us together and kind of made us go into this crazy endeavor with the bus. A lot of people sometimes ask, like, why do you do it? And then I don't know if we ever really have like a reason. It's like we're just like so into it at this point that like we just can't stop. So
too obsessed.
Yeah, so I feel like
thanks for the name and the favorite team.
That's the intro. That's his intro.
That was perfect.
Took over.
Argentina has won the World Cup for the second time in one of the most dramatic finals.
Like light banter that ends somewhere really good, and then we
jump in.
And we go, oh, welcome to...
Oh, like when it's like they do their little countdown and they're talking prior and then they jump into it.
No, but but kind of the same point of it. Hey, how you doing, Nez?
How you doing, Nez?
Maybe I can start it. So, Nez, welcome on the show.
Damn, no, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. You guys came down from Boston to spend the weekend with us in sunny Florida. A little windy today, but nothing we can't handle.
Yeah, little snowbirds, right? That's what they call them, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that come down to Florida in the winter time for some sunshine, and it's a great start to the day. We took we've been planning. Came out here yesterday, get some shots lined up, and then turned on the bus today, and it wouldn't move. And so that's a great theme throughout this story that we're about to get into, of this bus doesn't want to move, and somehow we brought it up and down the country and out to Texas, and hopefully we can get into a little bit more about the story of how we moved it around, huh, Nez?
The story about how we moved it around, because it's now back-to-back times where we've come to do things with the bus, and the bus wouldn't move.
Yeah, it's been 3 times in the last 2 months that the bus didn't move when we wanted it to. So This time being the easiest one, it was just stuck in the dirt a little bit. I had to get a little love tap.
I
Pushed it out.
forget who was saying it was like, isn't that such a beautiful metaphor for American soccer or something like that? I
Oh,
was like,
Wait. Let's
You got
play
deep.
on that.
The what?
what does that mean?
Go
What does it
deeper in
mean?
that.
The metaphor.
what do you mean by
Starts, stops. We think we're gonna get there, and then we don't. But then we do. So, I don't know. That's kind of
That was. I mean,
was
you
so
were
close to
You were
being-
so close
it
to
was-
saying something sick.
something sick. It's still too early in the day, and we didn't get any beers. So, I don't know.
It's a pretty good. The metaphor of the bus doesn't like to move, but we still try to move it, is, we've been told, a good representation of the sport in our country. Why do you think?
I feel like, if we go all the way back, like back. Like in the 1920s or whatever, when it was like the first professional leagues in the country, and then everybody thought, like, they were packing stadiums, 15,000 people, and then everybody thought it was gonna be the sport, and then there was like political infighting and all that stuff within the league, and then it crashed. No professional leagues for like 50 years or something. Then the NASL lasted for like 15 years, dies. Then MLS comes in 10 years later. So I feel like that's kind of like what American soccer has been. It's like a lot of like starts, stops, and then people that try to revive it in whichever way they can, and then it keeps moving forward in one way or another. So I think maybe that's what that person meant, of like what this bus kind of represents in some sense.
Who was that? Who asked that question? Who was this person?
Or did we just lie and make that question?
Just make that up.
Make that question up. No, it was our friends from Portland. It
In the
was-
summer.
Yeah.
So you may be asking, what is this bus that Pablo mentions, and why are we sitting in front of it on a dirt lot? If you are here and you don't know who we are, it's very impressive. But a quick introduction: we are Club 11. We are a self-funded, independent soccer media organization thing with the goal of trying to push the game forward as best we can as good stewards through rich, boots on the ground, authentic storytelling. We will get to it, and we will be spending the next arguably 8 to 9, potentially the next 8 to 9 hours talking about this bus behind us and what we did last year and how we took a 1998 school bus 12,000 miles across the country, going from Orlando down to Miami all the way up to Burlington. But before we dive further into it, why don't we take a beat, in case people don't know who we are, to introduce ourselves. And I don't know, maybe teams you support, where you're from, favorite players as a kid. What fun things we can
Yeah, fun factoids.
give color to our soccer interest and where it comes from. If anybody wants to.
Gabe, why don't you start us off?
We have the same, pretty similar story, but I'm Gabe. I'm Pablo's brother, and we both support Alianza Lima. Or, that was our team growing up. I feel like big DC United fans. Around, we moved to DC around 2016, so around that time. But that's kind of how we got in touch with Tyler as well. Like our big DC United fandom.
Our gigantic DC United fandom, yeah.
Which has decreased as the years go by. But yeah.
You grow older, more jaded after going to too many DC United games. But yeah, no, similar to Gabe. I'm Pablo, his brother, like you mentioned.
Are you his brother, or is he your brother?
He's my brother because I was born first. But
Holy
but we grew up supporting Alianza Lima over in Peru. That was our first introduction to the game, and I think it was really cool to obviously kind of grow up in a culture that soccer is inescapable. It's kind of a part of who you are from the moment that you're born. And then coming to the U.S., I think it was when we were 10 years old. It was like a difficult transition in some sense because it was just jarring to, show up to a school and it's like you can't talk to anybody about soccer. You go out to the yard and everybody's playing basketball or football and you're like, I've never seen these sports before in my life.
What is this egg-shaped thing?
But I do remember then moving and then, I don't know, some people starting to play soccer as well too, playing in the snow, that type of stuff. So So it was cool. And then I think moving to DC was great because it was, big city with a lot of different people from around the world that are just kind of in this one place. And yeah, I mean, I think with DC United, we kind of went to games at RFK when we were in high school, went to games at Audi Field when we were in college. And that was kind of our introduction to the sport here in America. And it was nice to kind of come into the U.S. with that perspective of like, maybe the sport isn't that big here. Maybe people don't really care about it. But then you do actually show up and you realize like, no, like there's this whole world that's there that people maybe sometimes don't realize that it exists, sometimes because of like biases or like preconceived notions that they have. But then it's like if you just dig a little deeper, you realize like, no, there's this like beautiful world like in there. And I feel like that's where kind of Club 11 started, that it was like that first kind of like digging and you find a little gem and you're like, oh, I have to dig a little further, and then you find other things. So it was like DC United was kind of like the gateway into things, and then now it's kind of ended with this 1998 Thomas school bus that we've taken to like, I don't know, 20 different cities, traveled 12,000 miles all across the country, teams in USL, UPSL, NPSL, basically the entire pyramid. And it's just kind of been, I think, that pursuit for all of us, that it's like I feel like we all kind of have similar stories of like how we found the game here in the US, and that it's very similar, where it's like you dig and then you find something and then you keep going, and I feel like that's kind of like how we all found each other and what's kind of like kept all of us together and kind of made us go into this crazy endeavor with the bus. A lot of people sometimes ask, like, why do you do it? And then I don't know if we ever really have, like, a reason. It's like we're just, like, so into it at this point that, like, we just can't stop. So,
I'm too obsessed.
Yeah. So
Thanks
I feel like
thanks for the name and the favorite team.
That's the intro. That's his
That was
intro.
perfect.
Sorry.
over.
The Justin Good Luck following that is your intro.
Yeah, hey, my name is Justin. I drove the bus this year, and my favorite team's Orlando City. Let's just keep it at that for now, because
I'm sorry.
He said, "Let me take the reins on this."
I was like, oh, so we're starting now. And also, Pablo, just make sure you're moving with them.
I'm moving with it. Sorry.
Yeah.
First time doing
No,
this.
it's
So.
good.
First time. And what was your? So we have a little tease to the people later. What was your favorite stop this year with the bus?
Mine was, I don't want to. I feel like we're all gonna talk about Maine a lot.
You can claim it.
Yeah, I would say the Hearts of Pine was probably my favorite stop. Might be tied with Vermont though. Like both of them, I think just came at they came at the right time, and I think we all needed it. Just like going all the way up there, being here in Orlando and ending up in like Maine and Burlington. It's like that's as high as we were gonna go in the country, at least last year. So
I think it's as high as we'll go in the country. Even
Probably,
if we go over to, West Coast, I don't think it goes
We'd
up.
have to hit Alaska or something,
Yeah.
maybe.
Big dreams.
But favorite stop, I feel like that's very difficult. I know we were kind of talking earlier of like some of the early stops were great, but there was a lot of stuff that we still had to figure out with the bus, which made the stops a little bit difficult, or maybe you're like, man, I wish we could go back with everything that we learned along the way. But some of those early stops like still bring so many great memories. Even though Asheville was the first one, I think that one is one that I still like keep coming back to, just because we were all so excited to get out there, and kind of that feeling of like going into the unknown a little bit. Like we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. So I think there's still a part of me that like really holds on like tightly to that first trip that we made to Asheville, Boone, and North Carolina in general. But yeah, I think that might be my favorite stop, Asheville, actually.
He loves the Appalachian Mountains.
I do indeed.
He does indeed. Mr. Bus Driver.
Favorite stop from the tour? Not to repeat, I think, Maine, Vermont were awesome first stop. I think now that you were saying that, I was like, dang, like there is that, which I think we talked about in Austin a little bit, the the diverging paths of the ignorance and the experience, and at that point there was all ignorance and no experience, and there's a beauty to that, and there's a carelessness to that that quickly faded away. But maybe I'll go Austin.
That was mine.
Austin was a crazy like full circle moment that we'll talk more about soon enough. But it was like a special moment that I think a lot of like was emotional for all of us because of like how hard is like, I mean, a serious way of putting it, but just like how intense this year was. And to be able to finish something like that was a pretty cool experience.
How far back in the story are we starting? Are we beginning with interviewing a certain Grail subject? Are we beginning with the idea of the magazine?
Just depends how long you want this to be. We can go as far back as you want to.
I think it's fun context to explain how one of the, like, as we started to work together, the three of us at least, we interviewed a gentleman named Tobias in Miami who is an insane jersey collector, and we did it with the intention of we're going to test this video series on YouTube. We didn't really know what we were doing. I think I came in like last minute. We used Carlo's equipment. And I think we had no idea how big of a role that gentleman, Tobias, would play later. And Gabe, he sat you down first, right, and pitched the idea of the magazine?
Yeah, I mean, Tobias was, like somebody we met in January of 2023.
24, yeah, because I was there, remember, when
Yeah,
he came down and played.
Yeah, because that's when we
yes.
met Justin, that trip. We played
24, because, that's 26.
It's like right at the new year. So, yeah, just like some background on that. We were doing, I think we've all been jersey collectors for a while. We were doing a series on collecting, and I just moved to Miami. I think it was one of my first months there. So Pablo, Tyler were visiting. We decided to do an interview on Tobias, who was introduced to us by Mateo and John at Golazo Kids. They, mentioned he was a big Grasshoppers collector, and he had a bunch of jerseys also from the 70s, the 80s. So went over to his house, did a video, and that was one of the first videos that we worked on together, Tyler. It went out. We were all very happy with it. Tobias was very happy with it. I think we were happy that he was happy. So it was a series that we continued on that year. And I think about 6 months later, we were all kind of in this, like, it was the middle of the summer. We're all working kind of different jobs, June, July, all over the place. And we got home start of August, and I got a text from Tobias. I was had talked to him on and off like throughout that year. And yeah, I mean, basically he just said he had an idea he wanted to talk about, and just met up to grab a drink. I forget, where, but basically we sit down, and his idea was he wanted to help us fund our first print magazine. So he'd seen that the story that we'd done on him was something that he enjoyed, his family enjoyed, his friends, and I think the response from our audience was also very positive. But we had talked casually, I think, Tyler, when we were there, that we all were very into print, and he remembered that, and he mentioned that he would be honored to help us bring like a print magazine to life. So yeah, I mean, I remember I called Pablo on my drive home, and I told him like I couldn't believe like somebody would make that offer. So Tobias, if you hear this, like I still can't believe it, and we're all very thankful, obviously. Yeah, we talked. I think Tyler, like I called you right after as well, and
you called me. I was
called
shooting
Roshan.
Shooting a Carolina Core game, and like I was in the tunnel next to the referees, and you were like, "We have to speak right now."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, sure."
No, I mean, I remember I was just like, it's just one of those. You remember that moment and how you felt. Talked to Roshan for a while, and we think we'd all been sitting on all these ideas like for the longest time. like Justin and I, for example, like we'd been talking about a video idea that he had written a script for, I think like 6 months prior, like since we met January of that year. And at the time, like all the ideas that we had kind of came together thanks to this magazine pitch that Tobias had brought forward. So basically what we did to kind of keep it summarized, we decided instead of doing the print magazine and kind of leaving it at that, we talked about it and we figured like we've always wanted to do a road trip around the country. Tyler and Pablo, I mean, you guys can talk a little bit more about what you did the year prior. Just to wrap up here, like basically we decided we wanted to pitch to Tobias, how about we buy a bus to sell the magazine from, and then we take this bus around the country following a tournament and do this for the entire year and see where that takes us. And at the time, I think this idea was presented in like 10 slides of a Google Slides presentation. But that was enough for Tobias to say, again, to show us how much he trusted us and to say, yes, like absolutely, let's do this. And, you know, we ended up where we're at now, you know, with the bus behind us. But I mean, maybe you guys can talk a little bit more about the tour, because I feel like that was a big part of why we got this.
Yeah, I think in general, like, it's a really good story of, like, you don't know what you're preparing for, like, when you're doing things, because to the effect of, I mean, obviously, like, Club 11 had been around for a while at that point. Like, even, I forget what year you did, a story a week writing?
2021. Yeah, 2021.
Which was insane. And he did it. You were doing that, Justin had the idea of writing the script. The year before, we did, with Roshan, the Open Cup trip, the 3 days, 3 games in 3 days across North Carolina and Tennessee. And even then, like, we went to Asheville, which we'll come back to. We went to see Carolina Core and High Point, which we came back to. Because I think, we love the idea of how do we actually go to these places and see these people and be on the ground. So whoever can claim the eureka moment of what if we put it all together, congrats, you're a genius. But like we were like preparing for things without knowing we were preparing for them. I think.
Did you ever, when we were doing the road trip, did you ever think that we were gonna go back there?
I mean, I hope, but I couldn't even fathom in what conditions it would be possible, because it was like we did a car and we drove and it was like, oh, it would be sick if we like had a Sprinter or had an RV, but it's like that's never gonna happen. Why would that? Who would let us do that? How do we get to the idea of, or where do we tie in, because it fits very well and ethos wise, the naming of the Soccer Odyssey? So I feel like at least how I tell the story is like, oh well, we thought of the Soccer Odyssey and then it was like, what if we went on our own Odyssey?
Gabe and I talked about
Baltimore.
Yeah, we were in Baltimore shooting, like Barcelona was playing, whatever, and we were shooting it.
They're playing Milan, yeah.
Yeah, Milan. And which is interesting. We ended up going to Milan a couple months later.
Holy.
But, and we were talking, we were just getting excited about it because the script had something to do with a bus, and we were like, oh, let's rent a bus for this video, and, like, that will be, like, kind of the part of the video. But it will just be, like, just for the video, and then that's it. And then we talked there in Baltimore about, like, oh, like, we can buy the bus now. And, like, this could be, like, a real thing. And then at the same time, Gabe's like, oh, I'm moving to Orlando soon. So, like, you know, I'll be able to help and, like, we can work on it. And then, I mean, one thing led to another. And I don't know, how did it come about that it was going to be a tour? I think we were talking about, like, how are we going to do sell a magazine?
So when did we have, I remember having a conversation. I was still in Charlotte. We all got on the phone. We didn't really, like you weren't like a part of things yet,
yeah.
But it was like we had the conversation. It was like, well, how big of a swing or do we want to take? Because we could rent a bus, but that's not what we would want to do.
Yeah, I feel like with because like at the same time with Justin, like those conversations were kind of happening at the same time, but I know we weren't all like together as a group. But like, I mean, the script he's talking about, I feel like he's being very humble, but like the script was like I mean, it's a thing that for months, like we started talking about it like in January, and then he came up with like it's basically just like to a T of like what we should do, what we should film. And I think when we were in Baltimore and we talked about like how does that connect to the magazine? I think it just fit like perfectly. It's not something that we can say like, back in January we thought this was gonna be for a magazine. Like I remember clearly, like when we first talked about that video, we decided not to make a video because like we didn't have an idea for it. Because we just thought like,
Yeah, it was just supposed to get people excited about the World Cup.
World
It was
Cup,
like
like-
the whole thing was hop on the bus, like
Yeah.
like hop on the bandwagon of
soccer,
in the
basically.
U.S.
And,
and,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And then again, going back to Tobias, like when we had the opportunity to fund a magazine, it all kind of came together in the sense of all these ideas had this theme of exploration and travel like together. I mean, the bus was all about movement and like pushing the sport forward. You guys had this idea about, you know, a tour and like connecting the communities here in the country. And the magazine like was basically 11 stories about characters all over the country. So it's painting this picture of like, it's literally the journey that just never stops, which is the Odyssey. And I think, you know, when, forget exactly like how the Soccer Odyssey name came through, but like it fit the magazine perfectly. And then we realized like it fits this whole theme together. And the first time I remember seeing it all together was when we went to pitch to when we were making like the deck for Tim Weah. Was like when I first saw like the triangle of like, we're gonna think of this as an album and like there's gonna be a tour.
Yeah, talk about the triangle, because I feel like that was like when it all started making sense. Is like when we treated it like, okay, the magazine's like an album, and how do you like promote an album as like we kept using that like analogy of like being a musical artist.
I mean, I think like just talking to you so much, like I know how much you're like into music and stuff, and like Pablo's always been like, I mean, ever since I can remember, he collects like vinyls. He has his, I mean, he loves music.
Hey, do you
But-
like do you have like a vinyl player? Or you just collect them and they just sit in your?
No, yes.
I got
Oh,
my
okay.
record player.
My bad. He's a yeah, but yeah, I think for all of us, like music is just like easy to understand. So when we were finally, I think, in agreement, and we knew that we wanted to work together, and we had to start thinking of like, okay, how does this make sense? We kept having these conversations where I think just all of us end up having all these ideas, and on if there was no control, like we would end up nowhere, right? So we end up having to put our ideas on like a canvas and make sure like this is something we can follow. And when we wanted to present this idea to people, especially to Tobias, I think that's actually when we came up with the triangle. It wasn't to Weah, it was to
Yeah,
to
yeah, it
explain
was
to
Tobias,
him.
yeah.
'cause
Yeah.
I think when we first talked about it, I remember being
It was
like,
in September.
it was like cool, but like, what happens after? Like, how
Yeah.
do we make this thing, like, give ourselves a chance at a launch pad to like we
Yeah.
can grow the brand with doing this, but how do we make sure that like we put out a magazine and it ends?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, how do
Yeah.
we keep going?
I think like, again, it all just, talking to you, for example, like both of you guys, like you told me a lot about the tour that you did the year prior. So I think to explain the triangle a little bit, the way we thought about it was, Tobias's idea was the magazine. So we had the magazine at the top of the triangle. On the left bottom side, we had was
the video.
the video. So the video was basically like this. I think back in the day and still today, you know, you have these like announcement videos, MTV, and
It's like the single.
yeah,
the single
so it's-
promoting the
it's
album.
The single that is promoting the album, which is the magazine, and then the tour for this album and, you know, the single is the bus tour. So again, it's like, even just explaining it now, it doesn't really make sense in how do I say it, in a generic way. Like it's still, I think it made sense to us, and that was enough to like push it forward. Even today, like I can't really define it in an easy way. I don't know if you guys can, but
Well, like I would say, I mean, how do we were trying to figure out how to expand the lifespan of like, we have this opportunity to get a magazine. People are going to buy the magazine, and that could be the end of it. And that's what, I mean, majority of people do because they don't have this opportunity that Tobias gave us.
yeah.
So it's like, how do we maximize that? And then that's when we were like, okay, let's not take anything out of this like investment. Let's just put it all into like this rollout of, and turn it into a campaign. Because I mean, a big conversation that we had was like, how do we make this a portfolio of like, hey, like if we actually had money, like we can do this. And so we're like, let's just put everything into that, and we can show people like what we're capable of doing, and like really bet on ourselves in that sense. And so like with the album or with the magazine being the album, it's like once you buy the album, you listen to it and you read the magazine, but now you start to like, we want you to care more about what we have, more than just like buying the album and that's being it. So we want to show up in person and be able to share it with people in person. And we thought, I mean, that's how you continue the lifespan of the magazine. We sold out of the magazines at the last stop. So, I mean, I think that worked perfectly. And in terms of the video, it felt like it was such a big swing because we put a lot of resources and a lot of time into it, and we really wanted it to be like this elevated piece that can kind of like kick off this new turn that we're like taking.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Because I think it was, I mean, when we were talking about 2021, when we were doing all these one story with an athlete a week, and it always felt like we would do something, and then it would just flip, and then it would be over, and then it would just be like a next thing. And I think the really like nice thing about this whole thing with the bus is that yes, it gave things like a bigger like lifespan.
Yeah, lifespan, especially with social media too. It's like everything lives and dies like within a scroll. So it's like, how do you give people something to care about? And I think, I mean, we figured out how hard that was going to be like very quickly, and like also how like thought through everything has to be. Like, I think we cared so much about how things showed up online, how things showed up in person. And it was a learning process that was like very painful throughout the whole process of being like this. I mean, when we talk about the first stop, we can talk about how at the end, nothing, like we couldn't figure out why nothing was working. And later on fixed it and we kept going. But I think that was the first step of that. It was like, let's just start going and see what happens.
Totally, yeah. It's a good point to call it, of like tying in the earlier point of ignorance, but also this feeling of we're frustrated because we can't get, like, no one almost thinks our ideas are real, or we can get like backing to do the things we want to do. We had a chance to do it. Yeah, we'll do it. And it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, there's a reason why people don't do it.
Yeah, there's a reason why people don't give children enough money to do whatever they want to do. But I think, to our credit, we were like, wait, how do, like, very intentional and overthinking things a lot of times of like, how do things show up? Where is it a right decision to do this? Even, I think it's a good segue, what does the bus even look like? Like, where do we get a bus? How do you insure a bus? So I think that brings us to a good point of, where did the bus come from?
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Because, I mean, it was
a whole fucking episode, yeah.
It was September, and at that point, we still felt like we had so much time until like the next year. We're starting to get working on the magazine at that point. It's like a couple of stories maybe in. And Gabe and I are just like kind of like very lax looking at stuff. Like, oh yeah, there's some here, like some there, like. And then like a month goes by and we're like, oh crap, like we have no leads on this.
We also kind of just like, oh yeah, Justin was like, I'll look for a bus. We're like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it was very much like we're on, like I was kind of just like looking. I was like, yeah, I got it. Like that's kind of my biggest downfall in life is like I got it, and then I end up getting it.
The thing is, it's so convincing because I remember I had spoken to you maybe like twice in my life, and you were like, yeah, I'll find a bus, and I was like, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, this thing our whole company hinges on. Yeah, he's got it.
Yeah. So then I think October came around and we were like, oh crap, like we need to actually start looking for this thing. And I don't know why, but for some reason I was really against, I think we were just both against looking on Facebook Marketplace. We were like, it's kind of like sketchy. And then we quickly found out there's no, we have to look on Facebook Marketplace for this thing.
The difference was like a bit, but I remember, I mean, we've seen like real school buses. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the difference between that and Facebook Marketplace, but like we almost flipped our approach, like from searching for a real one.
Oh, yeah. Because then, that goes into like the overthinking of everything. Is like for the video, we wanted it to be a normal bus. Like we wanted it to look like a normal bus on the inside. But when we're done, we'll renovate it and turn it into this. And I mean, we still stupidly did a whole different design for the video anyways. But like we were like, it needs to be a normal bus now, and then we'll change it later. Not knowing how hard it was going to be to like renovate even the small renovations that we did. So we went out, we looked at one and we were like, this one's great. It was like a whole renovated inside. we left. And Gabe stayed the night at my house because we're like, let's just go back tomorrow and let's get it because this is it. Like, and the guy was like, let me start it before let me try to drive it before just in case because it was like a sitting Airbnb. We're like, I mean, how dumb were we? Like, just thinking about that now, we didn't even like start. We're like, yeah, let's get it. Like, we didn't even start the thing. Or no, he started it. He just didn't move it. And then he calls me the next day. He's like, yeah, it's not moving. I'm not selling it to you guys. We're like, all right, thanks. Glad we didn't send you any money for that. And then I think a couple weeks later, we found old Woody. It was me, you, and Noel, who's done a lot of the video work for us this year. We went out Satellite Beach, and we were like kind of on the edge about it. I remember we were like, I don't know if it's going to be like, if it might be too big, and you know, there's all these questions up in the air. But I was like, let's just go see it. Like, we had a couple others that we were going to go see as well if it didn't work out. And I remember we got there, we made that turn like onto her street where it was at. And Gabe's like, it's perfect. And then after that, we were just off to the races. Like, the lady, she taught me how to drive it. And it was just like,
What do you think called out to you? Like in like, why was it perfect?
I think the
when you
size
first
of
saw
it was like, okay, this is like a manageable size. And then like the wood also was like I felt like that was a very attractive part of it. It was like, oh, it like looks like special, you know, like it doesn't look like just a normal bus. Like, it's very recognizable from afar, so like that could play into things. And it was just, I don't know, but there was like a good feeling
It's
around
just perfect.
it. Yeah.
It was perfect.
And I test drove it, and we're
Which
like,
also
yeah,
was your first time driving.
yeah. I
a
never
bus.
have driven a bus before, so she taught me how to use the air brakes. We left knowing that like, okay, I think this is going to be the one. She like talked herself down into a lower price because we kind of just explained like what we were doing, and she thought it was cool, I guess. And we came back, I think, a couple weeks later, and literally just the DMV was like close by, and they just like left us there with the bus. Like, I mean, we did all the paperwork and stuff together, sat in the lobby, and then they're like, all right, see ya. And I remember it was Gabe, me, and Andrea, and we're like, I guess we got to go now. Like, I got to drive this thing. And like I was saying, like, I've gotten better at driving it, but at the beginning, I'm just as scared as I am now. I'm scared now because of the whole year that's happened, but at the beginning, I was scared because this is my first time ever driving this thing. And I remember Gabe was sitting on one side of the bus, and I'm in the driver's seat, and he's just trying to tell me, like, when I'm going over the line, because I have no, like, idea how big it is and, like, when we're moving. So I'm like, all right, go left. Like, you're going off the side. Oh, crap. So somehow made it here to this lot here, and
I don't think you went over more than twice. That's why I gotta give you that. Like, it was,
thank you.
it was natural. It was really good.
But also it was that common theme that happens throughout of like we were chasing the sunset, because
Oh yeah.
the whole thing is like the headlights on this bus are terrible. So when it gets really dark out, I can't see anything. So we're like, let's go before it gets too dark out. But yeah, then we got the bus. I think that's like November at that point. And I think after that we go to Italy, like very shortly after.
Yeah, well, at that point, again, the point of ignorance, we have the bus. We have so much time
Yeah.
before we have to renovate it twice.
Yeah.
We continue producing stories for the magazine. Pablo doesn't sleep for 6 weeks straight, I think, at least. We go to Italy to meet up with Simoya. We do his story, which was awesome. That was the second week of December?
Yeah, that was the first week.
We hadn't touched that renovations before then?
No.
So
We didn't. I don't want to get it too ahead if we want to keep talking about Tim Way for a little bit, but we never touched the renovations until the week of Christmas that week.
That's crazy.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, we could talk about. I mean, we could talk about Tim Way. Do we talk about how it happened? I think a lot of people ask us like, how did you hang out with Tim Weah? Which is another story of both ignorance and just doing things. But when did we have a connection with Joanna?
With Joanna, that had been like 2022, I think. And
Joanna is who?
Joanna, she has her own agency. She's She's an agent for multiple players. Initially, it was just MLS, but not the regular type of agent, more of like on the marketing side of things. So I guess she kind of schedules like their different PR stuff that they do, different interviews and all of that. And we've done a few interviews with a few of her clients before, Paula Riola, Sebastian Leggett. And she was always very, very kind, very nice. Really liked the stuff that we were doing, the storytelling that we were doing at the time. And then when we were thinking of the magazine, first thought was like, hey, we need a cover star. And I remember sitting down with all of you guys and just listing out like, okay, like what connections do we have that maybe we can somehow get somebody to believe in this mission that we have, and to just give us the opportunity to maybe interview one of these players.
I think we were at Kyros's
house,
and we had like an Excel sheet. We were just dropping names. We were on LinkedIn looking up who we know, dropping names in.
Yeah.
And then I think once we realized, wait, like we know Joanna, what if we like screw it? We're gonna go try and like let's get Tim Weah as the.
She'd announced that like that week. I think that she'd signed Tim Weah like that.
Yeah, it was all kind of happening with that too, and I think it was really nice because so Joanna was actually like one of the very first people as well that we kind of like told her the whole idea of the bus and the magazine, and it was like at that point it seemed like an insane idea, but she saw the vision in it.
Yeah, at that point there's no reason to believe. That
Absolutely zero reason. Like it was just like okay, like they've done like. When I'm talking about stories with Paula Real and Sebastian Leggett, it was, we did the interview, we did the write-up, and then we did a few photos with them. But it was nothing where it was like, we had like a set or anything like that, or that it was like super like, produced or anything like that. And then, I guess like a year and a half later, we come in with this whole like crazy idea. But she was like, yeah, she was like, I like the idea, but, just if... you need to present this to Tim, essentially. So I really give Joanna a lot of credit as well, because she was one of the first people that we kind of told this idea, and then she kind of walked us a little bit through the process of like, put a deck together. Like, why would this kind of be like beneficial for, a player and all of that, kind of helping us button ourselves up a little bit, which I think was really nice of her. And then I remember, I think Peter had shot.
Oh yeah, Peter. He knew.
Yeah, Peter had a connection with it.
Yeah. But then we got on a call with Tim and Joanna, and we just presented the whole thing, and it was almost just like, you're presenting, and I remember like we couldn't really see Tim's face on the call, because you're like sharing your screen and like you're just like completely blind to the reactions of anybody. So I remember like going through that deck, and I can't see the visual like feedback of like, is this landing, or like are we just straight up bombing right now?
Are we killing?
Essentially?
Are we murdering?
Essentially. And then it's almost like it just gets to the end, and it's almost like the question of like, so like, are you in? And then Tim was like basically like, yeah, that sounds cool, let's do it. And then it was like, okay, I guess we're going to Italy right in December.
I mean, that was a couple weeks before we had to go.
A couple weeks before, because obviously they have like a very like congested schedule with Champions League and the whole like domestic stuff.
And he, I mean, that just for like context, but like that, those 2 months were like some of the most congested like weeks that he could have had. I mean, he was having games like Wednesday, Saturday. So for a while, we didn't even know if it was. We're kind of just waiting for that call to see like when do we go.
Just because he was in doesn't mean logistically it was going to work.
Yeah, and we had like I think 11 stories to produce, and like the first one that we did was in October, and then we had to finish producing everything by like the end of January at most. And it was almost like when Justin was talking about like how he was talking about the bus of like we'll figure it out, and then it kind of creeps up on you, and you're like, damn, like there's like 2 months left, and there's like 11 stories that we have to do.
Just
like
forever,
what are we gonna do?
Forever chasing the sunset.
Basically. And then I mean, what do we remember of going to Italy? Because that also feels like,
I mean, we were only there for 4 days. We went there and pretty much just shot it, and then I mean that whole night I feel like we were so excited about like, wow, we just like came out here, did it. Like I think we went to sleep at 4 a.m.
After we did it.
Yeah. And then woke up the next day at 4 p.m. and it was already dark out. We just missed a day here because we were just so excited, like the night that night before. Went to Milan after that to fly out. We missed getting to see the San Siro because we missed the train.
You missed a train. Yeah, we literally got on the wrong train
Yeah.
to go back down to Milan. So we missed the San Siro tour. We still went to the store to get what we could out of the experience. I guess, do we want to talk about like the production of it at all? Or
I mean, I just want to like talk about Peter, like going from
Yeah. I was gonna say that's a good
Peter.
story too.
I mean, Peter had I think from the moment we knew we were doing the shoot, like we talked to Peter just knowing that they knew each other, and I think Peter like has a lot of experience with that kind of photography. But Peter was in a similar situation to Tim Weah, because the Red Bulls, I don't want to say surprisingly, but like no one thought that the Red Bulls were going to get to the Eastern Conference Final, much less the final of that year's MLS playoffs. And when we first talked to Tim and we were like working through the schedule with Peter, he knew that there was a slight, I forget the percentage chance, but if you looked at like FanDuel or any like odds, they would have told you like this isn't happening. So he's like, yeah, I mean, if we do it at the end of November or start of December, we should be fine, because that's like literally around MLS Cup. And so we planned everything with Peter. Like we had the gear ready, like everything set. And
Peter's a Red Bull photographer.
Peter for context. Peter's a Red Bull team photographer. And long story short, the Red Bulls go on this amazing run, and they end up getting to the Eastern Conference Final against Orlando, actually. So they played here in Orlando. They played here in Orlando the day before.
The day before we flew.
The day before we had to fly out to Milan. So Peter, he flew with the team. He shot the Eastern Conference Final here in Orlando. Then he flew to New Jersey. He got his stuff. He drove to JFK. He got in, I think, at like 4 a.m. in the morning that day. Got his stuff, slept for like 3 hours, met us at the airport. We flew to Milan. We took a train to Turin. He did the photo shoot. He did the prep. He did the photo shoot. And then the next day, he took a train back to Milan. He flew to New York, and then he flew to LA the next day to shoot the MLS Cup. And then, knowing Peter, he probably had something to do after that. But just knowing that, I remember right after the shoot, we went to get pizza. It was like 9 p.m., and it was Peter, Pablo, and me. And Peter fell asleep on the lobby. Like, Peter fell asleep as we were waiting for the pizza. He was, it must have been exhausting, but he achieved everything. The Red Bulls didn't win the final. That would have been too fairy tale, I feel like. But it was amazing. What everything that went into that shoot, I think, was just let's try to get it done. And we all understood that it was at the time, it was the biggest photo shoot and just story that we had done. And I think Peter's the best representation of how much it meant to all of us to get it done correctly.
I think there's also that thing to be said of there are so many people that, whether it came to the production of the magazine or this whole thing with the bus, that they also had their own adventures and a hand in terms of making this a reality. And yeah, the sacrifices that Peter made and everybody around us in some sense.
I think that'll be another common theme throughout, is seeing people that believed in what we were doing and were willing to sacrifice their own time and their own efforts and their own talents to help us make this. This is very much a collaborative effort between a lot of people. And I think without, there was no way the four of us were going to do it by ourselves. It took a lot of other people to come out and get it going.
Yeah. Well, then I think that's another perfect segue for people sacrificing their time to then speak to the bus renovations.
Yeah.
And what rotating cast, even including your parents, helped you literally tear this thing down and then build it back up to what what our wildest dreams imagine the inside of this thing could look like.
Yeah. It all started, I think once we got the bus off Facebook Marketplace, I became my most visited website of just looking for things that we could put in it. Like I said at the beginning, the bus was going to be decorated for the video. I had this idea that my friend Beatrice and I had kind of put together, and a lot of the creative direction of what the video was going to look like. And so we had a big list of items that we wanted to get for it. So we were jumping around. She's in Spain, so she would send me links and I would go out and get the stuff. And as we were tearing out the inside, the inside had a bed in the back, had a kitchen, a full functioning toilet, shower, and that all had to come down, unfortunately. So me and one of my best friends from growing up, he came over to my parents' house and helped me just rip out everything, and we had a big pile of what ended up being trash at the end of the road for the garbage men to take up. And that took maybe a week to do. There were just so many, it was very well built. I can't lie. So things weren't coming down as easy as I thought they would. But yeah, it ended up coming down, and getting to see the bus cleared out was a very nice feeling. But it was also like, okay, we're just starting now. So we build up the bus with everything inside of it for the video, shoot the video, which maybe I'm going over a little bit too quick. But to build the inside of the bus for the tour was a completely separate task. That a lot of the stuff that we got for the video didn't even fit in the bus anymore.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. It was like a scramble to renovate the bus, because at this point it's,
I remember I was mad that Christmas and New Year's was coming because I'm not going to be able to work on the bus today. Those are 2 days gone because the video shoot was on the 14th, and the bus had to be completely renovated. And I have a video of on the 1st us ripping out stuff, and there's no way this is going to get done.
Well, at the same time, you were also, with help, of course, but you were the director of the video.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I had to credit Noelle and Alana a lot for that. They were able to put together a lot of the missing pieces and a lot of the video while I was trying to get the bus ready for it. Luckily, this has been something I'd worked on for a long time, so I had a good vision of what I wanted, or what we wanted it to be. But they were kind of helping me get it done while I was working on that. So we were still trying to get permits to shoot the video, working with trying to get Airbnbs and stuff to host people and host the talent while we were there, and just figure all that out while I would wake up at 7 a.m, just start working on it until it got dark out. And then we'd go and shoot the video. I guess we can talk a little bit about that. You guys all came down for us to shoot the video.
Well, just again, in context of the size of Lyft and how insane, the crew total crew or people on set ended up being 60 people.
Yeah.
We shot the video almost a year ago to the day, today, right? But it was at that point, we'll film, the video needs to be filmed in January, and we are still imagining we've got time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really, the plan we had to take the bus around in terms of renovating it again, and the speed at which and the way we were approaching the shoot and the time afterwards was there's this little tournament coming here in the summer called the Club World Cup. It would be perfect if we drove the bus around then. So we think, we filmed the thing in January. We got fucking months to then renovate, put the video out. We can button up this campaign. It'll be perfect.
That's a great point, too, because also Brian, who has helped us with a lot of stuff as well, we were working on this elaborate design for the inside of the bus. There'll be some glass casing here, this, and we're taking our time trying to build the layout of it. And we're we can't really figure it out, but we got plenty of time, so why are we worried about it? We just got to get it ready for the video, and then after that we'll revisit this.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Yeah. And then that's mid-January. I don't know when we started asking people about their thoughts of hey, what do you think about this whole thing? We were so official of can you guys sign NDAs? We have this bus. We have this magazine. We don't want you to talk about it. We gotta be hush hush, because we also just kind of disappeared publicly for a while, doing stuff. But I think it had to have been beginning of February when we were asking people, hey, here's our plan, Club World Cup. What do you think? Because again, we did the Open Cup trip the year prior. we thought like that might be cool, but like why would anybody care about that? Like that's not going to be like we're not going to get the most bang for our buck if we did some kind of Open Cup thing or MLS thing or whatever else. It has to be the Club World Cup because so many people will be here. And then feedback we got from some friends and family, they were like, why would you do that? Why would you try and compete with all of these other things that are going to be happening? You also don't know what rosters will look like. You don't know, like there's so many questions. Why are you banking on that? And we were like,
and there's also the thing of like, you guys are Club 11. Like that's not what you guys do. The like.
Also, just look at the bus. Like, I mean,
imagine the amount of hours that we spent trying to figure out permitting to get in the Hard Rock Stadium, MetLife. Yeah. We're like, oh, if we go, there's a racetrack nearby MetLife. We could bring the bus there or something.
Because I think it's also sometimes like when you're, working on a project or coming up with an idea or something like that, or pursuing an idea, it's like you sometimes get like tunnel vision. Even though we are a group, right? Like even in that sense, it's like we're all just kind of like feeding off of each other. So when it was like Club World Cup ideas, like yeah, that sounds great. And but then like the people that we talked to that I don't know, they've kind of been around like in the American soccer space for some time.
Yeah.
So I think it was like cool to also kind of get their feedback in terms of what we were working on and kind of listen to what they had to say. And I think that's kind of when our ideas kind of started to shift a little bit.
Well, then that puts us. We decide, wait, that's a bad idea. But then how do we have a good idea? And the genius good idea was, oh, well, what if we start going in March then?
Yeah, the Open Cup starts in March, so let's do it then. Because the magazine is going to drop, it will be released March 11th. We're like, oh, Open Cup starts the week after that. Let's do that.
That's because we didn't, but was the magazine at that point set for March 11th, or did we pushed it for March 11th?
We had to push everything up a little bit because of the magazine.
Oh, the magazine was April, right?
Magazine was April. Yeah. And we, like, that's a whole other story of, like, having to...
Yeah, because we were like, we can't have a bus with no
without
magazine.
the magazine. Yeah.
So, but point being, both the bus and the magazine, it was like, we have to move them forward by months now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you guys... I don't remember, like, exactly why, but I just know that when, especially... so many people just helped us realize like the Club World. I don't know if the Club World Cup was awesome. Like it was a great tournament, but I'm not sure that at the time like we knew anything or like even cared a lot about like the Club World Cup in itself. I mean, like we just kind of had it marked as like a summer event that made sense for this, but we were also busy with so much. I mean, he was renovating the bus like every day, basically. Like we were working on the magazine.
We were still shooting magazine interviews. We shot 2 more after we finished the video.
Like it felt like it wasn't by any means like a safe choice to do the Club World Cup. Like it still would have been a lift. But I remember the two of you guys like explaining the trip that you took to, I think it was Chattanooga, and like North Carolina as well, and just like it made so much sense seeing that the first March date was in that region, like knowing that it was in like the Carolinas and that the two of you had been there. We should have probably looked at a map that shows the elevation. Like that was a problem.
No. We knew exactly what it was going to be. I was the only one being like, let's keep it in Florida this first one and just like see how things go. And you guys are like, no, but North Carolina was so fun.
They sold, I mean, yeah, you guys sold that idea well.
And like, again, like almost a year later when we had the conversation of like, how big of a swing are we having? Are we renting a bus or are we buying a bus? Like that, I forget if we decided we're going to like do the Open Cup and then we were undecided about where we're going to go, or if it was part of the reason we decided to do the Open Cup was like, oh wait, we can go back to where we were the year before and do a similar thing at least. So I think it was like we just agreed on the Open Cup.
Yeah.
And then like we kind of waited a little bit. And it was like, actually.
Because then, the draw ends up happening or maybe something like that led us to be like, because then we were like, oh, you could go the 3. And I was like.
There were Florida dates. Like,
there were definitely
there's
the equal amount of Florida dates. And I was like, we should really start it here. And you guys have never like pushed me to do something except for like that. Like you've never like strong armed me into a direction except for that time where you're like, no, like we have to do that. And I was like, all right, like let's go. It ended up being a great decision, but knowing what we know now, it was a terrible, like,
The ignorance.
and
right?
yeah, it was just like a very ignorant decision to like what it means to bring this bus anywhere. Like, it's so much harder than driving a car.
And again, you had only driven it like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and at the
before.
time, I drove it from here to Claremont, which is like 40 minutes away, and now we're driving it, which, we'll skip a little bit of the renovation part, we'll come back to it, driving 7 hours in one day, and then up and down mountains, which we'll get to in next
We'll get that. So, like, but point being, we decide, like, Open Cup is a thing for a lot of different reasons, but at least from a timeline perspective, that means the bus needs to be renovated. Like, there isn't time.
Yeah, so that means like literally the next day after the shoot, as I'm editing the video, I'm also reaching out to the carpenters that I said, like, hey, in 2 months, will you guys be ready? And yeah, sure, we'll be ready. We'll have time in 2 months. Hey, can you guys start working on this next week, maybe? And no. Going down the list of no's, I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to sort of figure out how to do this on my own. And luckily, when we were looking for a car for the video, there was a chance that the car that ended up being in the video wasn't going to be able to be there. I reached out to my friend Jackson, who I knew from high school, and he was actually one of the first people that I shot video of just a long time ago, years ago. He's always followed like my page and everything, and big supporter. And he's like, if you need help with any electrical, any this and that, I was like, dude, I text him like, what are you doing the next 2 weeks? Next week, it was literally we had 1 week. I got all the supplies in 1 week, and then the next week we did it all. And he's like, yeah, I can do it. It would probably take like 3 days or so, and we can probably do it all. I was like, 3 days? That's crazy. Like, that's perfect.
That's what we need.
And then he came, looked at the bus, like, maybe not 3 days, but it was awesome. He took off 2 days of work. We worked on it, and we were cutting wood. I was collecting all this wood from warehouses and stuff. I would look on Facebook Marketplace, and they would put listings for like pallet wood. So every night I'd go home and just rip apart the pallet wood. And I had this great idea of like, oh, it needs to be painted. This needs to be like a dark, it needs to be stained. It needs to be this dark wood. And I had no clue how to stain anything. So my mom taught me how to stain it. And literally I had no time to. So my mom and my dad one day just started staining it all in my backyard and laying it all out there while we were inside the bus renovating it, cutting all the wood to get it ready to be mounted up there. And then he was done. We put up majority of the walls, and then he had to go back to work. So I had to finish like the last few pieces of cutting. But at that point, he taught me like how to do it all, so it wasn't too hard. But there's also so many pieces of the bus that are just in my garage that have never made it up in the bus, because it's just like we started and we just kept going, and I didn't have time to do any more renovations after that. So, I mean, if we want to, bring this to a close, you guys flew down because literally we were going to go on tour on the first tour the next day on a maybe
Because you got
Sunday
here before I did, right?
Yeah, I got like the week before.
Because you
So
were
I
here
think
you were here for the magazine.
Yeah. Because I think we had just come back from New York, because we had just finished the magazine, maybe printed it or something.
That's a great story as well. Is you guys, while I'm building the bus, you guys were in New York trying to make sure the magazine was printed correctly.
Yeah. We didn't even have a printer. We changed printers like a few days before it was like the deadline where we had to go to print. It was just
It was awesome.
Kind of awesome. Like, I remember like not sleeping like that entire week. It was just like,
I mean, yeah, and like just to that theme of like people helping us, like Zaid and Zenab from like they've been good friends for a while, and I think at the time, like, we'd been working with them and Brian as well, Brian Reyes. They're all in New York, and basically, just again to keep it short, but like the printer that we used was in Philadelphia, and it ended up being, it was I feel like it was a good product, but like at the time we only had 1 week to finish because we had the launch date, like the video was almost done, and I think just like I went with Peter and like we were holding it, and it just like, I remember the first minute looking at it, and you look at the illustration and it's beautiful, and you go through the pages, it's great, but you just kind of feel like this is not, like, this isn't the final thing, like this is not the one. And immediately, I think on the drive back, we had like an hour and a half drive back to New Jersey, and I'm just kind of Googling like where can we print
Print shop near
print
me.
shops in New York, and like to the credit of New York, like you will find whatever you need in New York, and like it just turns out one of the first few that came up on this search, and I would love to make it seem like it was like an hour-long search, but in like 5 minutes, like the first two that popped up, I mean, one of them ended up being the one that we used, and I called Brian. I told him like, "Hey Brian, have you heard of this one?" And it turns out he's like, "Hey, this is actually the one I used like a month ago to print." I forget exactly what he print with Red Bull. Brian also works with the Red Bulls. He's a graphic designer. Now I forget the exact title, but he's a fantastic designer. But basically, we go to we send them the files. They are able to make a what do you call it? Like a proof, the proof in a day, which is ridiculous. So the next day, like literally the next day from Philadelphia, they already had it basically done. So we go in, we check it out, and we're like, yes, like this is actually perfect. But the fact that one was so good that we had no revisions. If we had any revisions, like we wouldn't have had a magazine in time. And then they ended up printing, the one that we wanted, because they gave us 3 options, and we picked the one that was like a mix between like gloss and satin. And yeah, I mean, they printed it on time, and like maybe like a week or 2 later, we were in Orlando, and we had these massive boxes. Of,
Did you guys fly down with them, or they were delivered? I forget.
They were delivered. Yeah. So we placed the order like in person to ship them. So it wasn't online or anything. And we can put it on the video. I forget the name of the printer. But like they were the best like partners that we could have. I mean, they were sending us videos of the things like printing, and it was awesome. That's why I say it was awesome. Like it wasn't necessarily, I know it was like stressful.
I think it was awesome
But
because
it
it
was
was
fun.
stressful. It was
Yeah,
like
it
we were
was.
like, are we gonna do this?
It was like with Zaid, like
In his apartment.
I know
right?
you had you obviously had like met him in person before. I think I met him like once or twice before, and then for that week basically like we just slept in his apartment.
You were
Like on
brothers.
and it was like then Brian would go to work. Work is 9 to 5, and then he would come at 5 o'clock. And then we would all like because I was mainly working on the whole like writing portion of things, so I was like just like scanning over everything because it was our first print magazine. So it's like the stuff that we've published online, like if I make a mistake, I can just go on the back end and just fix it. But then this, I was like, oh my god, like we've gone through everything, like everything needs to be perfect. And I was just like sending it to the editors, similar to like Jackson, for example, that it was somebody that you knew from high school. This was somebody that I had met in college. That was, I knew that she was an English major. She had like she's like
Amelia.
working at a bookshop now. So she was the one that was like editing all this stuff and going back and forth on things. Colleen was also very helpful. But I have a distinct memory of like I was working on the writing stuff, and then I would like go to Zaid's room, and you guys were like huddled around like this, like just the desktop, like looking at the file, and they're just like moving like a thing, like a tiny little like millimeter. They're like, oh no, like this doesn't look that good. but it was like that level of like detail that was going into the magazine. Because I think also like when we were working on all that stuff in New York, it was I think like in the back of our minds as well of like Justin is also like doing the most insane like the whole like manual labor side of like getting the bus ready, and it was like, oh, like if the bus is going to be ready, we also need to make sure that like this magazine is like as close to perfect as it can be.
I think it was like my first time. I think, and I don't know if it was like this for you guys, but there's such a, for those like last 3 months before the magazine, there's so much of like a collective focus of like, okay, this is like the one thing we need to get done. It's like everyone is like on the same page of like, which is crazy because we hadn't really worked that much before, but we were just like, you guys will get it done, I'll get it done. Like we're all moving in the same direction, but we just need to focus on this one thing right now and just like get it done.
Dude, one thing that like now that you're kind of like recounting the stuff of like that you had to do with a bus, with your family, your friends, all of that, and I remember like we had multiple stories like planned out for the magazine, and a few just like fell through. And then like we got to like the final one that it was like, oh, okay, like we're gonna shoot this, and then the magazine needs to be done like next week. And I remember like I forget, like we were all like spread out and we didn't have somebody to like shoot the video.
Yeah.
And it was like you came up, even though you had this whole thing with the
Yeah,
bus, you were like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna go shoot this last one. And it was
Yeah, we went. I mean, we did
Brianna Pinto, right?
Brianna Pinto, and we also went and did Christina Uncle too
that
in
too.
January.
You guys just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
by yourselves. Like that
Those,
was
I mean, those
just
were the
insane.
first. Those were like test drives. Because did we drive to?
We didn't drive the bus, but
No, not the bus.
No, but you guys
But we-
drove.
yeah,
drove
we
on,
drove.
yeah.
We literally drove and went there that morning, and then we drove back the next day.
Just
Just
insane.
But yeah, I mean, I forgot that. So the magazine was like the Friday and then the weekend, but like that thing of like now I'm like remembering a lot more. But like Zenab had like she was sick that weekend, and she was still like editing things. Zayd and Brian both like they were working like through the day, and then at night we would all meet up, and do that like the
And then the
magazine stuff.
whole thought of like when we place the order for the magazines, like are they going to arrive on time
Yeah,
before
yeah.
we have to leave?
The other thing is like so on Friday we basically paid the deposit, but we didn't have to send the files until Monday because they didn't work over the weekend. We didn't have a cover until like literally I think it was like Monday at 4 a.m. because of the time difference. But the videos of blurred out cover, yeah. Because I mean Jamie Eki, like, or I don't know how I forget exactly. Sorry, Jamie, if I'm like mispronouncing it, but Jamie's based in Brighton, and he's the illustrator for Brighton in the UK, and all the illustrations that we did in the magazine were from him. So, like, if there were no revisions, thankfully, I mean, there was like really nothing that we had to change. They all look amazing, but there were 4 in the magazine and then the cover. So when we sped up that timeline by a month, like we also, like, I mean, kind of fucked it for everything because it's like everything has to be sped up at that point. And I just remember going to bed like the night before that Monday, so Sunday, and like we didn't have a cover. But to your point of like you kind of knew it was gonna get sorted. Like I knew we were gonna have a cover. Like by the time we woke up, and we had to send the magazine before Zayd and Brian went to work. So like at 6 a.m. At 6 a.m. like they were on the final like PDF like revising it, and I remember them like sending it out. They went to work and like we flew out like the same day, so we had to say goodbye and left. But there were like zero doubts that it was what we wanted made.
But then it was fun like going from that and then going to Justin's
came
house
into my workshop
and seeing, dude, these very seats, like my first memory of kind of like seeing the bus at your place is Jackson trying to like saw off the base of this. There's like there's like sparks like going out as we're like pulling in or whatever.
Yeah, it was a full workshop. Like the whole entire my parents' house was transformed into just
And it was like opening up the doors to the garage, and I had never met your parents before. And then I see both of them like just basically sitting in the garage like staining the wood.
yeah.
And again, we had been so like focused on the magazine that it was like we had no idea of like what does the bus look
What does
like?
it look like?
What are the renovations like?
You hadn't seen? Had you seen it?
No,
before?
I mean, I had seen like the pictures. I think that was probably my first time actually like seeing the bus in person.
Yeah,
For sure.
Or no,
I mean,
no,
aside
no,
from the shoot,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I saw it at the shoot, but like seeing it was like okay, like this is the inside is gonna get like renovated again, and then I remember like stepping onto the bus and there is like absolutely like nothing like in there, and it was like ooh, go.
You were like, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Amatucci. I started this company. I'm the reason for all this.
But again, there was zero doubt that it was gonna get done.
Yeah, I mean, you guys spent those whole days doing the little like tiny things, like putting the cork in the pin holders.
I
and
felt
we
so
started-
bad. I was like,
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, like, you know, Justin is like, you know, doing the whole stuff with the wood, and like here I am, like putting the little pins on the thing.
But I mean, even that night that the magazine came out, because that was a week before we went out. That night we went to Chili's, which we go to all the time, and it's
Sponsor us, please.
yeah,
Chili's, please.
No, please don't. I don't want to keep going there. But and we were so sleep deprived because I think that I finished the video that like at 5 a.m. and the video came out at like 8 a.m.
After having conversation on the video where it was like, guys,
Yeah,
at midnight, dude.
I think we need to change some of this.
Yeah, I mean, like a week before that, I finished the edit and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. And then Pablo, Tyler, and I like walked through a whole thing, did a whole narration. We got somebody to voice it over. I mean, I was with Zach who did the sound on it, and we're making a song. Like it's so stupid the amount of things I'm like, this has to happen. And it was literally like me, Noel, Zach, and his roommate John, and we're like, oh yeah, the song needs to go like this, and then stop here at the door, and then it's like whoosh, and then we're like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, and then meanwhile the bus is just like empty, like there's no renovations happening, and I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, like we need to keep doing, because we kind of like talked about what the song needed to be. They made it. I'm like, all right, let's start like making it fit what the video is gonna be like, and the door opens and there's a whoosh and we're like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Like, and little did we know that I'm gonna be up until I think I sent the final export at like 8 a.m. To you guys. I went to sleep. The magazine came out, and hopefully this. I think I went to sleep for like an hour and a half, and then I couldn't sleep because I'm like, how is this going to be received? Because it was such a big swing, and we're like, okay, like this no one could like this.
Yeah,
or like no one.
We worked on this for like 6 months.
Yeah,
and then it could just be
none of this could make sense. Like, we had that last shot that we put in at the last second too, because the last shot is of the magazine, and we were going to have it in the dirt and be a completely different thing. And we're like, well, we can't have the magazine in the dirt as the first time showing it. And we need to make it. So Noel and I made this big contraption and did this final shot where it's like floating in the ether, and that ended up being the final thing. So this is all like within 2 weeks a week of like the magazine coming out. And then that next week is full renovation. Somehow, some way, everyone's here that last day putting stuff together. I remember my older brother was out there trying to drill through a lock so we could lock the door, because there was nothing. We're like, we have all of our stuff in here.
I was like, how do we lock things? Because I got here the last day, and vibes were scary because your brother couldn't drill into the door to put a lock on, and we're like, how are we gonna lock the bus?
Yeah. There was no, and I don't know. I kept going back and forth to Home Depot to get more stuff, and it wouldn't work. And then finally, I don't know at what point we did it, but I think even that morning we were putting stuff together, and then I guess we can, end things here. It's like 12 p.m., and we were supposed to leave at 10.
If you made it this far, thank you for listening. If you want to hear more from us, check us out across platforms at Club 11, and join us on Patreon, where you can get exclusive perks and be the first to know about what we're up to. Until then, we'll see you next time.